I'm not sure. We're on stream right now, though. Or at least we're on the webcam.
All right, our mics are live.
All right.
All right, hello and welcome everyone to GameMason. This is the Overwatch LAN Finals. It's been a long time coming to come back out here at the, I almost called this the Performance Arts Building, but the Center for Arts. Close. I always mixed them up when I was a student here. Anyway, this is, of course, Shenandoah versus George Mason. It is Shenandoah's coming out from winners finals. They beat George Mason earlier, unfortunately, but George Mason got that win against Virginia Tech, and now the double elimination phase of the tournament ends. This is going to be no bracket reset, grand finals between these two teams. So I'm Hamster Quest. Yes. I will be casting for you alongside my co-caster Griff.
Yeah, always nice to be here. Like Tracer might say on Kings Row. Back in my own stomping ground. So, yeah, excited to be here. We're looking forward to a great game and hopefully good spectating for everyone here.
Absolutely. So we are forming the lobby as we speak now. I believe the first map will be Oasis, so we can tell you guys about King of the Hill, the format. I know some people may be a little bit newer to Overwatch here. We have the stream open as well. So this is a little bit different of a format than we have done in the past. So King of the Hill is going to be a format where both of these teams are going to be playing to get control of the center capture point, and they will get it to 100%. Once one team is on it and knocked off the entire other team, they can begin the capture progress, and then if they get to 100% and the other team is on it, they will win the round. It is a best-of-3 format, so they have to do that twice. Mm-hmm. First team to do that twice will win.
Yep, and also just some side points for that. There is 3 maps that are specific to King of the Hill, so there's going to be, if they do in fact play 3 different times to get to it, there's 3 different maps, so you'll see a bit of a change each time one team completes it. And there is an instance of overtime if at one point one team gets to 100% and they've completed the capture, but the enemy team is not entirely off the objective yet. They're going to have to clear that objective for them to actually be victorious there. So just a couple of those little key instances where something might be happening that extends the length of the map, but there's some good starter rules if you're new to viewing King of the Hill and Overwatch in general.
Right, and if you are new to seeing these teams play, I'd like to introduce the lineup for you. Starting for George Mason University is going to be your main tank. At the far end, Matthew. His tank duo, on-off tank, right in your face. And your DPS lineup for tonight, starting on hit scan, 2-0. And I think, is it projectile tonight? Who knows? DPS is one of those things. Also on DPS, of Inks. And then, of course, your supports holding down the fort. You got Amform. That is flex support, and then main support, your captain, Zap Pat. And then for Shenandoah, we have the main tank, Dragon Blade X. I don't know which side, I think the left side. There we go. His tank duo, Sacred End. Their DPS lineup tonight will be Void X and King Kong Pappy. Their support lineup will be on main support Enders, and on off support, oh, wait, let me get the pronunciation right. Faina. Was that right? That was the one I didn't write down. I'm so sorry. Both teams have ringers on side, substitutes on side. We will introduce them if they do show up, so don't worry if you see a new face. We'll get that information to you. Looks like the match is about ready to start.
Yeah, so as you said earlier, going in on Oasis here. It's a map we've seen a couple times before, specifically I believe in Shenandoah and George Mason's matchup before. So familiar territory for both these teams starting out. Looking forward to just making sure everyone is ready and set before we get going.
Right, so these teams have played a few times before. Of course, it's going to be Shenandoah coming out of the winner's side of the bracket, so they have the leg up right now. But in seasons past, in this fall, the match score between these two teams was, I believe, 4-1 in favor of George Mason. So Shenandoah coming out on a strong start for the spring semester. We'll see. It's definitely going to be a very close competition. As many of you may know, with the Overwatch League coming out on the Overwatch 2 beta, which will be 5v5 Overwatch, your highest level of 6v6 Overwatch play is going to be seen in Contenders and in Collegiate. And with the amount of Contenders players we're seeing coming over to the Collegiate side, this is basically some of the highest level play you will actually see in Overwatch 6v6 to date.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know coming in as more of a semi-competitive player myself, I've been very impressed with the level of play that I see, and it's always a pleasure to come on for the cast and watch some of these players duke it out and do their best to get the victory. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very interested to see more of this matchup. Another, I guess, note about the parallel of these teams is I think they are all Grandmasters stacked around the average of Scrim SR, I think 4,300. So these are some very powerful teams. And since we haven't seen much change in the meta in a few years since Echo's release, a few balance changes here and there, these teams are really refining the meta and getting really good at what they do. We're starting off on Oasis University, which is a close in corners map. We may see these teams pull out some brawl compositions, so they'll want to get nice up front, close and personal with the with your opponent, with players like heroes like Reinhardt. You might see Zarya's Divas, Reapers, Cassidy. It's got to be a lot of people that can do a lot of close range damage. Here we already started with a pause. It looks like one of the players is requesting perhaps a bio break. Someone's hamster's on fire. I don't know. Goldfish on fire.
Who knows?
The usual situation.
Yeah, another interesting thing that I've seen sometimes in this map that always seems a bit important is the Mei. Sometimes the Mei comes out and that can wall off the choke, and sometimes that single ability itself can turn a fight. And as I say that, we see that both teams, at least in the starting zone right now, are going to elect for the Mei to start off. So could be a single character that you might want to keep your eye on. Has a high impact basic ability in some of these fights.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the first abilities you see that wall coming out in the fight. You're definitely going to want to watch out for the immortality fields from Baptiste. That's going to be an important cooldown to keep tracking as well. C2O throwing out the Sim TPs to get there just a little bit faster. They want to hold this ground on the left side here now. It's going to be 2-0 getting back there a little late, so George Mason's going to play a little bit on the back foot here. They're going to enter the point. Now Shenandoah still playing inside the room. No cooldowns really committed other than some flame strikes thrown. Matthew's shield's getting quite low. Shenandoah might pull the trigger. They're going to take some ground off of this. You see Voidex missing a few shots on a big. He might go for a flank angle. GMU needs to watch out for this, and they do lose 2-0 to that angle. Both Reinhardt's going down in the pit, having a little brawl as Amphorb tries to keep him up with the immortality field. It looks like it's Shenandoah's favor to win this fight, though, right in your face. They're just going to stall for a little bit longer. They don't want to give that percentage over to Shenandoah just yet. He's going to get DMAX on point and taken out, and the first point ticks go over to Shenandoah.
Yeah, great first take for Shenandoah. You saw George Mason elected to use that teleporter and get to the point early, and though they got there early, they were sort of just waiting for Shenandoah to sort of arrive at the point that wall went up. And as I say that, we got another wall coming up here. Matthew's going to find himself on the other side of it. He's going to get taken out early. George Mason could have to go back to their spawn once more. They don't even get a second touch just yet. Shenandoah is just pushing forward into the spawn, holding as much ground as they can so that George Mason has to fight their way to even get to the objective.
That window that came out first gave George Mason some trouble. Shenandoah trying to keep those ultimates rotating into George Mason. Oh, the high noon does connect on a thing, so now they're going to get real aggressive. George Mason not going to commit too much to this fight, but they want to try to win what they can. They throw out the window as well, but unfortunately, it's just not working out for George Mason. Shenandoah just too powerful coming into these fights. in making the most out of their pick advantage.
Yeah, and that's just what I was alluding to before. Shenandoah doing a great job of just taking space that they know is important. They didn't commit to that objective before it unlocked early, so they were able to save some of their Reinhardt shield in that first fight, and that has led them to where they are now. They got a bit of an advantage here as they come in. GAMEmason going to try and make their way to the point. They're getting a lot more space than they had before. The wall goes out, and the Blizzard coming out as well. Going to try and freeze up some of these targets. Matthew, a single shatter and a nice charge as well onto Poppy, but the immortality field going to keep him alive for a while. Shield goes up, and GAMEmason get a couple of picks, make their way to point, and now it's about trying to clear off these members as fast as they can without letting Shenandoah get any more point percentage.
Wow.
Looks like the last Baby Diva going to be cleaned up there as it's sure to flip here. Just a Lucio on the side. Ender's doing his best to make sure that they can get to that final as much percentage as they possibly can.
Yeah, and that point does flip over to GAMEmason's side. What a wonderful play from the tank from GAMEmason there. It was right in the face with the Blizzard bead that stopped that ultimate from going down, as well as a shatter block, return shatter from Matthew that was able to really win that fight for them. Now, too, getting a good high noon here on the Cassidy. They do have to watch out for King Kong Taffy, who's on the May on the side. Matthew tries to go for the charge. Looks like they will escape with their life, but GAMEmason still holding on to that point percentage. Holding up a little bit close to the choke here to get a little bit of more of an environmental advantage. The May wall is coming out. Immortalities are there as well. It's going to be Enders with a big beat as well as Zap Cat. But Void X is going to get that first pick in the fight on Right in Your Face after they get D-Mech. Matthew's in trouble now. Abink's also getting low. It's trouble for GAMEmason here now. 2-0 needs to make the most out of this by playing an off angle, which he's doing, but there's just way too many members of Shenandoah that are still alive for him to take care of, and Shenandoah is going to get that point back.
Yeah, and the problem there mounts for GAMEmason as there's not much time left for them to get back to the point, and there was a bit of a stagger in some of the way that those deaths happened, so it's just the two tanks right now. Zappat looking for a flank as well to try and get it to points in case they need to touch it shortly here. It's going to go down. Not even sure if he got that. He did. So good job from Zappat to secure the overtime for the team. The rest of GAMEmason is going to have to fight here now and see what they can get. But the picks are all coming up right now in the form in Shenandoah's favor. 2-0 is going to answer one back, and Inform going to find a couple nice shots onto Dragonblade X. That's the main tank going down for Shenandoah. So a bit of a frontline loss for them, but GAMEmason, they're doing their best, but it seems like this push is on its last legs. A lot of members have fallen. It's just the Tracer and the Lucio on point, stalling as long as they can, and as I say that, 2-0 falls down, but they've bought enough time. Multiple members of GAMEmason are making their way back, and they've got something to say about it. Inform landing some good shots, and Matthew jumping forward and taking down that May. They're going to be trying to flip this point if they can, but it's a really staggered fight right now. Just the two main tanks and Lucios, it looks like, are fighting for the objective. But Inform, again, going to land some good shots and take down the main tank. That's the start for GAMEmason. Abink's going to land some rockets, both on the enemy and himself. You can say, we'll take those. Objectives secured for GAMEmason.
We will take those, and well fought GAMEmason again, right? Actually got another Blizzard beat at the beginning of that fight. He came into this match hungry and performing quite admirably. We saw him play absolutely wonderfully in the match before this against Virginia Tech, so great for him. Now Void X opening this fight with the high noon. It's Matthew in danger to the May wall. So GAMEmason's gonna throw out that immortality first. Now they are down in the cooldown management. And the shatter connects from Dragonblade on the back line of GAMEmason. They may lose this point. Only a few members up, including Wright and 2-0. They do equalize the main tank pick there, but it doesn't look like they're going to have enough members to do much more. 2-0 is going to manage to get another pick, so it's up to GAMEmason to stall again. Zappat on that duty, doing a good job, but unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult for GAMEmason to turn this around. The pick potential goes lower as they pick characters like Hammond that struggles against brawl compositions, but they just need to get to the point fast. Right in Your Face does have his mech now. He's on the main tank of Shenandoah, but he cannot quite finish it until he gets into Baby Diva form. It does finish it now. King Pappy with no Right in Your Face to eat. The Blizzard does get that out and pick up 2-0, of course. Now Shenandoah still numbers advantage, trying to close down the last kills. They need good target focus, and they do manage to get the members of GAMEmason off that point.
Yeah, going on a bit of a rant there. Sorry to leave you out there alone, but yeah, you can just see how long, with how good these teams are, some of them can stall the point objective on overtime for almost a minute and a piece there.
Yeah,
so just, you know, both teams vying for control, no one giving up and doing their best, whether it's one or two individuals that can get on the point, staying there and making sure that if Shenandoah wanted to take that, they had to fight for it, and they did. Very good play right there. A great shatter, like you said, from Dragonblade X there to sort of get into the back line and make sure that GAMEmason was always on the back foot for that fight as we head on over here. Again, we see the Symmetra coming out from both sides this time, just to get to the objective a bit further, or a bit quicker.
Yeah, so George Mason and Shenandoah both going to go for the ball, trace their comp, but you can see King Pappy over there on the Sombra. They're one of his favorite picks there. So we'll see what he can do with that. It is a threat to the ball. The Hammond, that is Matthew, has to watch out for that one. They're going to fight for this right side as the Binks and Matthew make their way around to pinch, and the boop does hit on the Zen. They may be able to get a lot of value off of this fight. In fact, they do pick up the flex support of Shenandoah. Faina goes down, Anders goes down as well. George Mason cleaning up the members of Shenandoah here. A very good flank play, and they will get that point percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see George Mason came into that. They had a plan, and they executed on it, and a couple of good picks at the beginning there, finding that Zenyatta in the back line. Definitely going to lower the healing that Shenandoah has. They only have the Zenyatta and Brigitte here for heals, so a bit lower than you might expect with a dedicated main support. So definitely going to be a map in which both teams, as you can see, since they're both running mirror comp there, are going to want to dive to the back line. George Mason setting up on point here. There's a bit of flank coming in. King Kong Poppy going to find 2 on the back, so that's maybe what they're looking for there, but the team's a bit disjointed right now. It's all about who can take the favor in this next fight here. As the EMP comes out off screen, it lands in a couple of kills, resulting for Dragon Blade X, and Beta going to find one as well onto Matthew. So it's just a Binks here trying to stall as long as possible for George Mason, trying to get the percentage on the point up as much as possible. Void X going to push up here and see what can be done to sort of stagger this kill, and Dragon Blade X going to join as well, but the Baptiste lamp secures Rose safety. George Mason sort of regrouping here. We got King Kong Poppy sort of hiding in the sidelines here. No EMP just yet, but might look for a crucial pack, and any individual on George Mason finds themselves alone. Ooh, detected there for just a second. Not sure if anyone noticed this is a really big stealth play going on right now, as is good with Sombra to find a nice point in the back line. The Bing's going to throw the pulse bomb. It lands onto the Diva. It's actually
onto the wall.
On the wall, so it doesn't do full damage. Right in your face. Also grabs the pulse bomb from Void X on the backside of that. Pulse Tracers dropping their pulse bomb, not doing much. Dragon Blade X going to find 2-0 here in the back line, but that's answered by Matthew, who also finds the DPS for Shenandoah. Probably going down early, but that's not an even trade in the DPS department. The Soldier is going to be pumping out a lot more damage than Sombra might. What's more important is their EMP. Lots of ultimates being popped right now. Shenandoah notably popping the Diva Bomb and the Rally. This bomb's big, going to find 2 key targets on George Mason as well. 2-0 and Anform, the backline, could be doing the most damage and healing for George Mason. So their survivability is definitely low here, and without the point in their favor, they're just going to be looking to retreat and regroup with the rest of their members.
Yeah, they pick up the right option right there, and they never got the point percentage ticking in their favor, George Mason, that is. So they just had to finally leave the fight when they realized it was no longer winnable for them. They started off pretty well, but unfortunately couldn't close out that fight in their favor. It is very difficult to kind of like manage all these other angles with all these characters. Good mobility, you know, anyone can hop on and off the point at any moment, so you really have to get a full team wipe if you really want to secure that objective. So that's GMU's struggle right now, and they don't really have any ultimates coming into this last fight. They will commit the 2-0 visor over there on the Soldier 76, but it's going to be Shenandoah that has a pulse and another EMP ready, and Amform doesn't have trance for this, so they have to be very careful about how they push this fight. They do manage to pick that Sombra, so now GMU, new life breathed into them. They are cleaning up the members of Shenandoah here on this side angle. Amform does get picked, unfortunately, but GMU should have the resources in order to close the fight. They get enough of that, so they just clean up the last members. Actually, the point flipped over sooner than I thought it would, so
yeah, it was a bit interesting there. George Mason pops that visor early, as you mentioned, and Shenandoah just concede the point. They have, like you mentioned, the pulse bomb and the EMP. I think they're waiting for George Mason to take the objective and sort of hit them all there, but never happened. George Mason found some good picks. Dragon Blade X looking for one right now. Onto Zappa in the back line, doing a bit up and down. Oh, no abilities, not going to be able to save himself there with the grappling hook. And that's a pick that George Mason was looking for. They're coming up on 90% here, so this fight might be the one that determines this map. King Kong Poppy falling low, but he's going to find the health pack right in your face. Is hanging out and looking around. The bomb's going to go in from Sacred End, but not going to land onto anybody, so just going to remech for now. Ivink's looking for a pick onto the ball. Mines are going to be dropped, but doesn't pick up anybody yet, and we've headed into overtime. Well, I'm saying that Sacred End going to find Matthew, so no main tank here, but 2-0's into the back line, finds Faina. King Kong Poppy also going to go down from a Binks. Enders is going to equalize that back. But 2 picks for George Mason might be enough to take this fight right in your face. He's holding onto the bomb, fighting the enemy D.Va, is able to de-mech him. So that's a lot of room opened up for a Binks who has no D.Va to eat his shots just now, but we're going to go into a pause.
Wow, what a moment. Geez, yeah, GMU looks like they are probably going to take that point in overtime. Did start to tick, but geez, wow. Good angle from 2-0 there that really opened up another point of the fight. I was worried a long time for George Mason. They started that fight almost with like no ultimates, and I was watching the rally and the trance start to come up. Shenandoah didn't have that available, as you can see. Anders did get up to like about 93%, so we'll see what happens when we get back in there. It looks like we had a monitor issue, unfortunately, but hopefully it does not affect this round moving forward.
Yeah, as you said, it does look like, at least, lo and behold, lest me caster curse them. The round is slowly ticking over to George Mason. They got a couple picks in that last fight. But yeah, as you said, just a big play from George Mason, 2-0 to go and find that flank and get a lot of value out of it. But I think some of it might actually be an interesting part from Shenandoah, where I liked what they were doing when they were just conceding that point there. You know, they had the advantage of having capped earlier, so George Mason was the ones that had to take the aggressive move. And it's really good to sort of play that fight strategically, know what ultimates you have, and try to get value out of them. But George Mason maybe just too quick after that with the ball and the tracer, finding their way to the back line and sort of disrupting that plan that Shenandoah might have had. It led to them taking the objective early. As you mentioned, we didn't notice that they had already ticked it over. So just a good play from George Mason, very proactive as we're going to head back into things. Straight on back into it, overtime ticking down very quickly, as you saw there from the long period. Just a quick pause to hold suspense maybe as we go into the tiebreaker for this King of the Hill map here, as we're all tied up 1-1.
Yeah, all right, so this is going to be down to the wire for the first map. Again, this is a best-of-5 series, so whoever wins this will move up in the series. Then they need 3 map wins in order to win the grand finals. But in order to win this map, the best of 3, they will just have to get to 2. So this will be the last one we see. Again, of course, it is a different map. This is Oasis Gardens. And so, you know, we can see a variety of compositions on this. So George Mason is going to offer a kind of a more defensive comp, more bunker-ish. Again, it's not double shields. It does have right innovation on the D.Va, but they can play into the 6-man dive composition, we call this, over on Shenandoah. A lot of those characters notice they have a lot of mobility. They want to go really fast into George Mason, so we'll see if George Mason can sustain this dive coming in. Looks like so far they almost get the May. Binks almost went down there. The hack does land on right in your face. It looks like Shenandoah isn't able to really break through this bunker right now. George Mason wants to play a long fight, and it looks like they're starting to get the value now. Dragon Blade X does go down. Matthew gets that pick, and now George Mason's ready to pull trigger, move forward. They've moved on to the point. They have a lot of members of Shenandoah to pick up in order to fully win this fight, but it looks like they have the resources in the tank in order to do it right now. They're being careful and methodic about how they push forward. As you can see, they're focusing out that Sombra, moving forward. A pull on the Lucio, very good from Matthew there, and George Mason is going to get that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Important that you noted the difference in composition, because the bunker, as long as they survive that initial dive and burst from Shenandoah, they are going to be good to go. And Amform is a big part of that with the Baptiste lamp. Going to be able to give them invulnerability for a short duration as long as that stays active. And did a great job in that fight. As you can see, the ultimate already built up for Amform. King Kong Poppy doing a little backline reconnaissance, but got scouted out. So that's going to be going back as Shenandoah is going to commit off of that information, finding themselves onto the objective. But George Mason, for the moment, survived the initial dive, except for Amform and a big double kill. Dragon Blade X going to knock them both off into the edge of the map, so they're going to die instantly, and that's just going to be signals for George Mason to let the fight go. Save your ultimates. We're going to have to take this next one here.
Yeah, well played from Shenandoah there. They answered every play that George Mason could have thrown at them. The Dragons were speeding. They had a great dive, picked out a Binks on May early, so just everything went right for them in that fight. And now, as I say that, Binks is turning this around, getting the kill on Void X to start off the fight, but Shenandoah, of course, does still have resources. The EMP, a very strong ultimate right there, is going to give Shenandoah a big advantage. Matthew and Wright are still up, and they are able to get some advantage here. They're going to move forward onto the point. There are some kills being traded. Wright does want to commit the bomb. Unfortunately, the point is still in Shenandoah's favor right now, so this stall needs to be ended quickly if George Mason wants to get that point percentage and get value off of this fight. Right now, they have the rally going up, and Vienna is throwing out that coalescence. The bomb does not quite land, but George Mason is starting to get 2 picks here. And then the very end of that coalescence does pick up 2. George Mason may not win this fight, but they do get the Diva. Now with the Bongo, actually, they have a lot of pressure on this point. And now they look to be cleaning up the rest of the members of Shenandoah. It looks like they will win this fight. They just have a few members left. The Sombra needs to be thrown out here. Tracer also has to be dealt with from main. Dragon Blade X is probably coming back to the fight, but doesn't get there quite in time, so George Mason is finally going to get that point.
Yeah, you can see what a great job King Kong Poppy is doing. Just such a nuisance, hitting these big multi-target EMPs, as well as just initially capping the objective while George Mason was off of it, so that Shenandoah was just getting slow percentage that entire time and stalling at the end. Just a great objective play there, making sure that the team is getting as much as they can. George Mason going to set up here. They got the bunker in the back with the Orisa staying behind her shield as right in your face plays the high ground here just to deny some of this early entry. Dragon Blade X going to jump in on the high ground, early pressure on the 2-0, who's also hacked. Big EMP. Dragon Blade X going to pop the ultimate. Bena going to catch the trade onto Inform. Dragon Blade X going to hit some more Monkey Madness here, just keeping everyone into the corner from George Mason and buying time for his team to hit some good shots. King Kong Poppy going to take out the Orisa from inside of George Mason. Just a Diva D-Mech here, not going to be able to stall for much longer with the rest of the team off. But as I say that, Binks still has some time on the objective. Going to be doing a great job, and something we always look for in Overwatch is if you can get to about 95 or 96%, because that's like one fight territory for the next turn of the objective. So Binks just making sure his team has a bit more percentage than necessary. Dragon Blade X having a little funny moment there. Yeah,
right there.
That's true.
So now they have that ready for the next fight. George Mason does have the rally available. They don't have to worry about the EMP this time, but you're right, this is last fight territory. Shenandoah pulling the trigger fast. What they need to do in order to win this, they get the bat really low, but it doesn't look like they pick him off. George Mason's still alive in this fight. The longer the fight, the better it is for them. They just lose the rally just now, and they throw out the window as well. They get Dragon Blade X, so this fight should be in George Mason's favor. They need to work on these targets and get their target focus down. They do get enders, so it is working out for them so far. The pulse doesn't kill any member of George Mason. Now the fade out for Moira. George Mason is finally getting the value of the long fight, getting spammed into multiple targets. They are going down. Shenandoah, this is do or die for them, but they have only the EMP to work with, and only Void X and Enders are up. George Mason trying to clean up these last 2 targets. Will they do it? It looks like they will. George Mason get that point in just a few seconds. They will get that map too. George Mason up 1-0 in the series.
Incredible. Just pure determination, and George Mason playing to the strengths of their composition. It looks a bit iffy early when Shenandoah jumps in there.
It's so scary.
Yes, it is scary. You see everyone fighting, everyone brawling, and there's only 1 or 2 members really that maybe go down in the fight. So you're sort of concerned, especially when the percentage is going. There's the big boops that we saw happen off screen. Dragon Blade X doing a great job getting multiple members and playing for the rest of the team, even getting a little one at the end there. Great use of the Winston ultimate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very scary to play the Winston in that composition. I'm a main tank player myself. I played for George Mason for a few years, and playing that 6-man dive and trusting that when you jump in, that your team is going to be there to support you is not a small feat. So he does have good trust for his team there, and they did get a lot of value off of it. That was a pretty close first map, so good Overwatch so far. It's going to be Shenandoah's map pick. I believe they're going into a hybrid. So could be like anything like King's Row, could be Numbani. We've seen Shenandoah, I think, pick in the past. We'll see.
Yeah, just something to note, just sort of keep the consistency here as we did for King of the Hill. If you are sort of interested in hybrid, and then maybe if you're new to the game, hybrid means that they cap the initial objective like we saw on King of the Hill for the attacking team. That is, there's an attacking and defending side rather than 2 teams vying for control of a single objective. The attacking team first has to capture the initial objective, and then there will be a payload that they'll have to push to the end there. So that's how the objective is going to work for the hybrid map. Just something to keep note of if you are sort of new and interested in Overwatch. Just sort of ground you in what sort of thing we'll be doing.
You know what? I think it's Escort that's next.
Is it actually Escort?
Because in MVT, after the Oasis, we saw Junkertown.
Well, if you didn't know what Hybrid was, you'll see it later. Now you know, but we might have to jump back from that, actually.
But at least Escort's a bit easier to understand.
Yes,
it's just the back end of Hybrid, so they're going to be just that cart and
just no initial objective to capture. So very similar game modes as opposed to King of the Hill.
There are the checkpoints along the way, so there will be 3 of them. The final one wins you your offense, and this can go into overtime or extra rounds as well. Once you clear the other team off of your cart and you get it to the end, you get that round win, and you can go again if the other team get those 3 objectives as well. So we'll see again what Shenandoah is picking here for Escort. We might see some player swaps here coming up as well. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the rosters and these history. I don't have all the information on Shenandoah if they had this team last semester, but GMU, you will notice that the DPS lineup is a little bit different. Tuo there is a bit of a legacy player. He's our perpetual freshman that we can't seem to get rid of, and he's in the place of Niner, if you remember from last semester. We also have Yuck as an available sub as well, so it's all off of this map pick, which we may be going into Havana, one of the newer maps.
Yeah, Havana, one of the maps I actually have a little bit less familiarity on. I remember it more so as the initial limited time game mode that came in. So it's still a interesting map. Some of the strategies we see on this map are pretty interesting, not necessarily seen in other maps. Havana, I've seen sometimes attacking teams can get stuck at their own spawn, so that could be a bit...
the brawl spawn hold is something to watch out for. It's very possible we may see that. Another fun fact about Havana is the Overwatch team, when they released it, I think it was for that PvE mode.
Yes.
And they wanted to test out one of the storm features. So there was a storm going, and they wanted to use that on Anubis as a sandstorm. It was a cool tech feature, but when we see it in competitive play, of course, there's no storms. It'll be clear skies. All the players will be perfectly visible, so no worries there.
Yeah, something about competitive integrity and not being able to see things can lead things astray on that point. But game devs do as they will. They're always trying to do something new and interesting. So
that's true. Respect for them. So it looks like there's going to be no subs coming in for Shenandoah. They will keep this lineup that you see on stage right now. We will see at GMU whether they are going to opt to do that as well, and then we will get into the match.
Looking forward to it. I know that when it comes to Havana, the third point, not that there's individual points, but just when you get towards the third checkpoint, I should say,
the third section.
Is always an interesting part. You mentioned that you were previously a tank player. I'm pretending to be a stranger next to Eric here, but he was my teammate at one point. I was the hit scan player for GMU as well. So that's a point, or a map and a specific part of the map that I'm always looking forward to. It's a bit of like a sniper territory. There's long sight lines, so the Hanzo, sometimes the Widowmaker, not as much usually, as there's been some changes, but so that can be a portion of the map where there's a lot of pressure on the hit scans to perform. You have these open sight lines, you can see your target. Now it's the easy part. You got to hit your shots. So.
Right, and in this part of the map as well, the first point, you may see some snipers as well. As you can see, these streets are pretty wide open. If you play a sniper down at the very end of them, you are pretty much uninteractable, other than the opposing hit scan on the other team that can also shoot you. Of course, the tanks aren't going to be too much to worry about. If they do come for you, then you got your team to help you. So we'll see if there's going to be any spawn hold action going on. It is going to be GMU that opted to be on the offense starting this match. And it looks like we may have Shenandoah going for that strategy we mentioned earlier. GMU is going to be going for a bit more of a spam composition there with double shield. It's going to be difficult to get out of this spawn. We'll see exactly how they approach it. They need to identify quickly exactly what's going on, what Shenandoah is trying to do to them in order for them to make this work. I'll take a moment to mention that both these teams have very good coaching. Matter on the side of GMU and Ravenstrider on the side of Shenandoah. And I'm sure both these teams are very well versed at the complexities at this very first point. It's a pretty popular coaching topic. So now GMU coming out with the Orisa, does see the brawl, and they have the Maywell to help them get back into the spawn doors, so they don't lose any members here, so the ult economy stays even. You don't lose that health pool to the enemy team. Unfortunately for GAMEmason, Zapad does go down to the hands of Voidex right there. GMU still trying to play the spam. Unfortunately, 2 is a little bit too close to the point there. Does get picked off as well. It's going to be Shenandoah building up their ultimates. None available just yet, but Matthew is trying to take down this Reinhardt. Unfortunately, he cannot. He goes down. Binks left to fend for himself against 2-3 members of Shenandoah. Right also needs to get out as well. They're doing their best to try to get out of the spawn, but it is not working. They may actually go for some swaps here over to the Reinhardt.
Yeah, and just interesting to see on the back of that Voidex, as we mentioned with the hit scan, just hitting great shots on Zapad. Sometimes, as Lucio, you're diving in and out, doing some wall riding, you know, getting a little bit crazy with it. Those are difficult shots to hit if you are a Cassidy, so props to him. Sort of leading this into his team's favor. Matthew, great charge onto Enders, but it's going to be easily traded back by Shenandoah. As the trades go even here, it's going to be up to GAMEmason to try and push this out. And they're going to find multiple members, and finally, you get to see that payload there start to move.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to see the interaction of the map. The payload does move. We'll see right now.
We introduced it. Yeah, we introduced it as a hybrid map on accident, but it turned out to be one. There's just a hidden objective there at the start for a little bit.
You got to take out the brawl.
Yeah.
Funny, fair enough. The 2-0 now playing these angles. That's going to be very important for GAMEmason.
Big Sonic.
You can see GAMEmason playing very far, spread apart, and they're going to actually combo 2 ults together. It's going to be right in the face, throwing that Flux and the Blizzard, but it wasn't enough. It was Shenandoah that threw out the beat, and so GAMEmason has to respond by throwing out the Dragons as well, if they want to keep this card pushing in their favor. But Voidex gets a massive high noon, taking out 2 members of GAMEmason. So all of a sudden, this point may not be secured. It is up to Sacred to stall it a little bit longer, but they're pretty far away. Dragon Blade X will be next after that. 2-0 does see this, and it looks like the Diva's going to get DMAC. This actually could be very bad news for Shenandoah if they don't kill this point, but they do end up doing that, so Diva does not get staggered. King Kong Tappy trying to push forward, but if Binks answers that, getting the May-to-May combat win in his favor. Zapad getting aggressive. It's Orisa. Matthew trying to follow that up, but Voidex popping off again, getting 2 picks. GAMEmason losing a lot of members here. Their Orisa getting quite low. Window committed on the side of Shenandoah. GAMEmason trying to back it up and tight it out. We'll see if they're able to survive this fight, but the fire strike through the window does pick up Amform. GAMEmason sent packing.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that as GAMEmason gets closer to capturing this objective, they're further away from their spawn and Shenandoah is closer to theirs. So the staggering from Shenandoah eventually results in them being able to retake the territory and send GAMEmason back to their own spawn. We've got about 50 seconds remaining on the clock here, so GAMEmason, they're going to want to try and get it here. If they have to take any longer, it's going to be bad news. Big shatter coming out onto the back line of GAMEmason. The beat's going to come out from Zapad, but it's not enough to save Amform's life. Fortunately, he gets the window off in time, and right in your face, going to land a multi-man Graviton Flux right onto the back line. Voidex, though, isn't done yet, finding more kills for his team, clawing it back in for Shenandoah, and it's going to be a stagger from GAMEmason. Matthew's just coming out of the spawn now. The rest of the team's behind him. They only have 20 seconds to get here. Man, Voidex, what a monster.
Yeah, I was about to say, GAMEmason seemed to almost get this point so many times, but they forget about the Voidex factor that's been carrying Shenandoah in a few of these fights, and if they don't take him out, then he's gonna prove an issue. GAMEmason's gonna throw out the arrow first.
Ultimates
They have the Blizzard as well, they're gonna stack on top of it. Shenandoah does not have any ultimates to respond, so GAMEmason does have a significant advantage in this fight, but Shenandoah, no strangers to good stalling, are gonna hold this point for a little bit longer. They do get Amform down, but it looks like GAMEmason is going to wipe off the members of Shenandoah from this point and get that first objective.
Yeah, those ultimates for GAMEmason there, but the Blizzard and the Dragon, crucial. They get a initial pick off of that, and it was onto the tank. So Voidex was a bit low. That fight took some initial damage, so maybe the issue there from Shenandoah was that they just weren't able to answer back. But they're going to be able to do here now on the second point. Still a good hold overall from them, making GAMEmason have to get down to the overtime, as GAMEmason's going to take a more aggressive stance here. Say, hey, remember that time when you held us in our spawn? We're going to try and sort of push you guys back too here. The window's going to be popped early here from Fena. Going to try and send GAMEmason back to the cards, or will they? They're sort of taking the objective here. Yeah.
Side swap.
Yeah,
Matthew getting in here now, getting the counter charge. is Dragon Blade X, but the Blizzard is a little bit too much for GMU. They're playing on the other side of the point, and they have not gotten any picks yet, but another 2-0 Dragon Blade, not Dragon Blade, sorry, Dragon Arrow from the off angle does pick up one member, and it is Void X. Let's see if GMU can actually win this fight with Void X down. They do have a few members alive and well to push forward, but they lose right in your face. He does have the shatter, but he's probably not going to commit it here, and now GMU back to the drawing board.
Yeah, that's Shenandoah with a bit of a heads-up play there, saying, you guys are pushing us around, but we can still play the objective from where we are, just high-tailing it on over that carton, saying, hey, you might win this fight, but we're going to negate as much as you can push as possible. So great job from them. They're going to be playing a bit of a stealthy approach here. Looks like GMU got onto it, and especially when the shield comes up there from Dragon Blade X. They know where they are. It's just about how the shatter is going to land here for both teams here. Both Reinhardts have their shatter up. It's just who can land a better one. Dragon Blade X is going to drop first and does land the shatter onto a Binks. That's going to be great for them. A big bomb from right in your face is going to land on 3 members. That's sure to swing the fight in GMU's favor. 2-0 is going to be playing the Cassidy here, taking a good shot onto the Mei, but as we've seen time and time before, Void X does not give up until they are dead. And going to find one and answer, but GMU ultimately going to be the victors of that fight. But Shenandoah, they're back here pretty quick. That initial few kills came out, and as they get closer to the end point here for this push, they're closer to Shenandoah's spawn, so surely they're going to have another touch here onto the objective.
Yeah, absolutely. There's only 10 seconds remaining. They're trying to push down a Binks on the high ground. Is forced to ice block here. 2-0 now on the point, has a good angle, not being contested. He's trying to get the damage out, but it's kind of getting environmental by Shenandoah here. Yeah, they're hiding behind all the walls and stuff. It looks like Matthew does finish up the kill on Dragon Blade with a Flame Strike and is able to just swing on the point, being the only main tank alive right now, but it is the Void X factor again. He has the angle that is uncontested. GMU will not be able to answer this unless that Pat pulls something crazy. Unfortunately, not today. Shenandoah is going to hold this objective halfway through second point.
Yeah, and right there at the end, we see credit to Void X really popping off that mat, doing a great job. But King Kong Poppy there, showing a little bit of synergy in the ultimates. The Blizzard comes out, and they have to get out of that. If they're frozen on the point, surely they're going to die. The high noon from Cassidy as well, just to make sure that if anyone decides to stay in that Blizzard, they're dead for sure. And a very good hold from Shenandoah. It looked like it could have been a bit earlier or further back. GMU doing their best to claw through and make sure that it's not a full hold on the first point.
Right, yeah, so we'll have to see how GMU wants to approach this defense, if they're going to commit to that double shield again, or if they're going to go for the spawn hold in the brawl composition. I know GMU does respect the Shenandoah brawl, so they will have to find a way to play around it and play around this Cassidy and Mei picks. So we'll see if they are actually, going to mirror it. Okay, well, the spawn hold strat is a thing, so we'll probably see that first. I'm willing to bet that GMU might switch back to the double shield at some point during another point, but again, second point is close quarters. It's a small window to switch if they want to be able to hold first point with the double shield on all those high grounds and such that we haven't seen really utilized, because both teams kind of switching back over to the brawl here and there, that we didn't really get to see that. About 10 seconds to start.
And definitely, I've got my eyes peeled for King Kong Poppy here. Bit of a flex player, just teasing me a little bit there. Was hovering the Genji, but switches back on over to Mei. Oh, you fooled me again. These players just hover these heroes sometimes, and I get so excited, and then they switch back to the composition. Walls come out early just to buy space. Shenandoah doing a bit of a better job getting out of the spawn than GMU was initially. Matthew, both Lamp's going to come down here from the Baptiste just to hold on here. They're both going to be taken down early, but no picks yet to fall. Fena's going to get the first one onto Matthew, and that's a big target. Void X is now clear sight lines, no shield for GMU to hide behind. They're going to try and fall into these environmental areas, but I think in 2-0 are also going to fall here, right? Soon to be demeched, and GMU, they tried the strategy, props to them, but the full hold not going to happen here.
Yeah, Shenandoah, great start so far. They're going to have the Earth Shatter ready for next fight, as well as potentially a window. So we'll see how they're going to approach this next fight. GMU also close to that window as well. Generally, when you're down in the ultra economy, you have to play slower, but GMU may be able to play fast here. Oh, Matthew narrowly avoiding death, doesn't get caught on the other side on the wall, rather above it. Dragon Blade does get rid of that immortality field from GMU, so I think they have that ult advantage. They're going to throw out that window as well. GMU have to watch out here. They're a little bit split. It is a hectic fight. It is up to Shenandoah to quickly take down the targets of GMU in order to win this fight, though. Right now, split target focus. Voidex is going to pick up right in your face, though. GMU sent on a journey around the map, but is the card that is still progressing for Shenandoah. They might just cap it. It's only 3 meters away. Someone does eventually hop onto it. It looks like it was Matthew. He won't be alive for much longer. Zaphat's turn on the cart. It looks like GMU not able to really hold on to this point for much longer. Zaphat finally goes down right in your face. Does get the touch as well as a Binks, but this is all a formality just to really take time off of Shenandoah's clock because GMU is not going to hold on to that point.
Yeah, and interesting to note there, not many ultimates being used. Shenandoah is sort of putting a lot of theirs in the bank. Only Cassidy and the Baptiste don't have ultimate right now. So they're going to be looking forward here. Like we saw on the Switch sides, it might be the next Shatter here that's going to be a big one. Matthew not up to his yet and going low early, having a lot of these fights. Matthew's taking forward position. The team may not be ready, going to be taking a lot of damage early as they're pushing forward. The Shatter's up for both teams. It goes down, but it doesn't land. Shatter's kept up. The shield is kept up, and Dragon Blade X can answer with the Shatter whenever he likes now, but he might not need to. Great bomb from Sacred End, and Void X finding a pick as well. Right in your face is going to answer back with his own bomb, but right now things are sort of stalling out, but the health bars are getting a bit low for Shenandoah here. Though they might have initially had the advantage, Matthew going to have a big charge here on King Kong Poppy. That's one more pick on the side of George Mason, but Void X, big high noon. Everything is neck and neck right now. Oh, big stick from 2-0 takes down Void X, and that is important. We've seen how much work he's been doing, even if 2-0 wants to trade his life for it. He's doing so on the card, stalling the point as much as possible, and we've had a bit of a swap on the sideline. Binks coming off the May into the Doomfist finds a pick, but is instantly traded back.
Yeah, Shenandoah finally going to win that fight there. It was a very explosive fight. When you see that Brawl compositions have a lot of ultimates, you can rest assured that a lot of them may be used. With the cooldowns that are available, generally you survive the first 1 or 2 ults, especially if you have got a few of your own. So now, not a lot of ults to work with. Both teams have the window available. GMU trying to flip, getting a little of the map movement going on here. Both windows thrown out. GMU has a better angle on their window right now, so we'll see if they get more value off of it. Unfortunately, Matthew does go down off of the better wall. GMU does not have that option there. Over on the Doomfist, so Binks trying to find a way to get into this fight. Unfortunately, it's hard to do so at times. And now Shenandoah cleaning up the members of George Mason with a bomb pick on 2-0. They're going to commit the beat as well. They want to win this map here and now. Zaphat going down. It is a Binks and Matthew left. They have the spawn advantage, but Shenandoah just pumping out too much damage. It is only 2-0 that maybe can touch here. Does get booped off, and Shenandoah tying up the series 1-1.
Yeah, a bit of a statement there from Shenandoah. The last map looked close, and they came out swinging on Havana here. They had a game plan, they stuck to it, and just overall great Overwatch played right there. We're going to see play of the game. Who else would it be from Void X? What a standout performance on that map. Had a lot of time, as we said. You get these angles as the hit scan player, and you can just sort of have free reign to do as you well please. And the most important part of that is still hitting the shots, which is, you know, it's easier said than done at the end of things, but
the hardest part about
absolutely
performing is making it look easy. And right now, boy, do I want to lock Cassidy in my ranked games.
Yeah, right.
Don't know how it'll go, but
yeah, sometimes you may not have the teammates that'll buy that space for you,
right,
like they did there. So
yeah, but Shenandoah doing a great job. Like I said earlier, it's GMU that has to really respect this brawl composition that Shenandoah is so strong at running. So now with GMU's map pick, we are going back to the hybrid, of course, which, as a reminder, is that first capture point. It's kind of like King of the Hill that you capture it, but you only need to capture it once, and then you're good to go. Your spawn moves forward, and you move to the escort part of the map. So it looks like we may be taking a quick bio break, but we can talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, so we've seen these teams play before, and maybe I'll wave my magic wand here. Usually when it is hybrid, it does go over to King's Row.
Yeah.
I believe it is George Mason's pick. We've seen them on that one before. But we've also, I think in a previous matchup where these two teams played before, there was a Numbani locked. So it's not said and done, King's Row.
Right.
There might be a bit of a Numbani flex here. So that's just interesting to see. Most teams, me and Eric have discussed before, that King's Row is just like, usually if it's hybrid, it's the classic. That's what people want to go to. So it can be a good map to sort of throw your opponent off if they're, you know, expecting a King's Row. Maybe you have a little Numbani in the back pocket, any of these other maps. Just interesting to see. The strategy's not said and done here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if GMU is going to opt to just try to force a map that's better at playing a composition that's not Brawl, or if they want to say, hey, you know what, today we're feeling good that we have maybe some other strategies against this Brawl. It could go either way. In the past, generally Shenandoah just tries to get matched by GMU on the Brawl, and it doesn't work out too well for them. That's how it kind of went down earlier in GameMason in the winners finals match against Shenandoah and GMU. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that streamed to you. It was played in 2 parts when a player had to leave and come back, but we worked it all out. I think Shenandoah's coach was actually in that match. He is, of course, a student is allowed to do that. Technically, I'm a student. I'm allowed to, I don't know, maybe kick off one of the members of GMU. I don't feel like they're doing well, and substitute in their spot.
This man
we'll
Eric
if it comes to it.
desperate to leave me in a solo casting position. I am not feeling it. But I guess after you see that pop-off performance from Voidex, you know, you want to sort of get in the game yourself.
Yeah, it's all revenge because I had to do the Nova versus Virginia Tech match all by myself. I'm like,
yeah,
you know what I'm going to do to Griff today at GameMason?
We put him in the real hot
After
seat.
your drive here, yeah. Griff coming here from Delaware, of course. I'm a Virginia native. Not a long drive for me.
Yeah, no. Well, you know, at least we keep it in the peninsula, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good on that front. Anywhere outside of that, you know, a little bit of unfamiliar territory for me. But, you know, definitely always great to be back at George Mason. You know, seeing the program that I was once a part of sort of flourish into what it is, it's really incredible, honestly.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to take this to a heartfelt tone.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
I sort of flipped it on you all,
good,
but
all good.
especially with you guys
That's
out in the
what
audience, seeing you all hang out, it's awesome. And any of you watching at home as well. Appreciate all of you.
Absolutely wonderful, the program that student involvement is able to bring to us in order to get these events coming out. You know, it was not many years ago that we saw, I think, HughFest and one of the events by Rutgers, I forget what they call their events, were one of the first lands available for collegiate Overwatch, and the level of play there was very good. George Mason, of course, trying to register for the next HughFest coming up. Shenandoah has been invited to that in the past. Actually, George Mason did play in the online version of that, but you know, it's the land we want to get to. Playing with your teammates side by side is a totally different experience, of course. We've had one of these GameMasons live once before, and I was lucky enough to play in that live, so definitely a fun experience. If you are looking to play some esports, of course, Overwatch is not the only one that George Mason offers. If you are a student, come down and do student involvement, join the Discord. We have that link on Twitch if you're watching down below, so, you know, lots of options available for you to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is a different beast when you're out here on stage in a LAN environment. I think from a player perspective, and I guess from a caster now as well, it really is like just purely invaluable experience that you can get here. It's a whole different beast. Even in the professional scene for many games, you know, there's online players. It's a whole different game when you're at home sitting in your jammies playing as comfortable as you like, got the thermostat wherever, not these hot lights on you, you know? So it definitely is...
oh, wait, you don't wear your suit when you cast at home?
You know, sometimes, you know, but not all the time, you know. Sometimes it has to go in the dry cleaner.
It's the dry cleaner?
Yeah, you know.
Oh, the dry cleaner. Okay, in my brain, I processed that as the dryer. I don't know why. I don't know why I did that.
No, usually hang to dry on this.
Yeah. You know, just take it in the drying pan in the river and wash it.
Yeah, that's how we do it over in Delaware, right?
Yeah, I don't know what happens in Delaware. I don't think anyone does.
I'm not going to be the first to tell you. So.
Anyway, we're over here on Kings Row, of course. Yeah. Wow, you guessed it. It was. It's the map that we see pretty often.
Yeah, just the classic.
Definitely not a disappointment too. It's a great map. There's a reason why we love it so much. And it looks like GMU is pulling out the composition that I wanted to see so bad. It's a hybrid of Brawl plus the double shield. What this comp is able to do is Brawl almost basically as well as the Rhine Diva, but your ultimates are a lot stronger. You know, Shatter can get blocked, Bomb is a little less impactful, but Graviton Flux, as we've seen Right play against Virginia Tech, is able to make a lot of value off of that ultimate. Of course, Bongo is a big damage boost as well. They're looking to play a slow fight, as you may have guessed. GMU have less resources to worry about. More damage output is their biggest concern, and as they get the first pick in the fight, they're able to move forward. This maze at a very scary spot. It makes a great wall placement. No escape for King Kong Pappy, sorry. And Enders is going to go down as well. GMU pushing forward. They're definitely going to get this point.
Yeah, it is interesting to see with some of these compositions. You see the kill feed lighting up in the top right corner, but it's all just either abilities or DMEX or things like that. You're thinking maybe some action's happening, and it is, but nobody's going down yet. These fights, they take a while, and everybody is playing so packed together and safe. Nobody wants to be the first person to die in any of these fights, because that could spell doom for the rest of your team's push. So GMU taking a bit of a comfortable push there, just getting a couple of picks, and Shenandoah respecting it, giving up this initial point. They're going to be happy to play the cart push here, as we have another choke point coming up here. Tuo's going to look for a bit of get a bit cheeky up in this window, see if he can find a critical headshot on this one that's not being guarded by the shield. GMU's going to push through the initial arches and back into this corner. Maybe some shots showing up for Tuo, but it's going to be the Dragon instead as he drops down, fires it. They're going to have to respect this. Enders is separated from the rest of his team, and that spells time for GMU. Matthew going to push forward and get two. The Arissa's doing a bit of fragging here, and a Binks as well says, hey, you know, I'm playing DPS. I want to get a couple kills. Going to answer on to Fena and Sacred End. And then it's just the staggered and Lucio there at the end. Ender's going to be trying to stall a little bit more, but not going to find it for much longer.
Yeah, GMU playing this composition absolutely wonderfully. You can see the power of all those ultimates GMU threw into this fight. The Dragon to open it up. Cooldowns were running low for Shenandoah, and they closed that fight with the Flux and the Bongo. So now they do have to watch out for the ultimates that are available to Shenandoah. They want to play fast, remember, because GMU is going to win those longer fights. But GMU, now with the point control, is able to play a few angles. They can do what's called webbing, as Shenandoah pushes into the core of GAMEmason. GMU can kind of spread out along the sides and get angles on Shenandoah. They don't really need to here with the Blizzard available. So this does work out for GMU so far, but the Dragon Blade X Shatter is big. They have to watch out for this bomb as well. Suddenly, GMU losing 4 members. Shenandoah finding a way in this fight to win it. Just right to pick up, and now they are holding the point right in front of the
amplification matrix.
Dragon Blade X going down at the end there, saluting off to his teammates, saying, I did what I could, and you did a great job, because that Shatter single-handedly, I think, almost earned the fight. GAMEmason got a couple picks at the beginning there and was looking to sort of just continue the brawl, move on through, you know, clean up members that are exposed. Dragon Blade X coming in around the corner, hits a big Shatter, and just buys time for the team to sort of reset and get picks and keep GAMEmason from just straight on pushing through. So Tuo going to come up with a Dragon here. And another flank position. Had some value off this last time. Didn't result in any outright kills, but bought a lot of space in zone. GAMEmason going to attack on multiple fronts here. The rally's going to come out from Zapad as they move in, but it's the Blizzard and the window coming out from the side of Shenandoah that's going to buy a little bit of time. But as I say that, GAMEmason's going to continue on pushing through. It's the beat from Enders just to try and keep these last few members alive. But GAMEmason, they are taking space. Only Anform is going down to Voidex. They are just cleanly pushing through, getting the picks they need. Voidex sort of playing in the back here, just going to pop out and make sure you don't stagger that long as GAMEmason capture that objective and move on here towards the final point.
Yeah, I'm loving how GMU is playing these angles. You saw right in the face, and Tuo take that right side flank. And again, Tuo getting value off of his angles, gets 2 picks to open this fight. They still have to wait for Amform to walk back to the point. I think he should be there by now. Right in your face, playing a good angle as well. GMU is just looking very well practiced on this composition. Shenandoah need to figure this out. They're whiteboarding it right now, figuring out how they come back and win this fight with no ultimates available right now. Matthew gonna throw out that Bongo. They have the window available as well. Shenandoah need to find a way to live long enough to get their ultimates, but also try to take some space. They often try to flip the map, but King Kong Pappy goes down. GMU cleaning up all the members of Shenandoah in response to that as well. Voidex, nothing you can do here with an immortality off. Team kill for GAMEmason. Yeah. Shenandoah might get a touch, but it's gonna be very, very scary.
Yeah, Dragon Blade X is basically going to have to charge out of here, but the Dragon's going to come out from 2-0 to keep them in the spawn a bit longer. They might buy enough time, but the charge is good. Dragon Blade X actually finds a kill onto Zapad. That could be disastrous for GAMEmason, but we'll have to see. King Kong Poppy coming out on the Doomfist finds 2 as well. This isn't going to be as easy as it may have looked for GAMEmason, and they might want to take the reset out right now as more members are falling. Sacred End and Enders and King Kong Pappy going to find, I think, a 4th on that fight. There's a quick pivot to the Doomfist there, and it paid dividends. They were able to get out and send GAMEmason back to their own spawn.
Yeah, absolutely. Like George Mason almost had that, but the charge that came out, they lost both of their supports so early in that fight that they were not able to play the long fight that they wanted to use so far. They have to worry about this window. They are going to wall it. No problem for George Mason to back up and cool down. Trade for an ultimate there is definitely good for them, but Zaphat may be caught out again. It may be a bait right in your face. Is trying to stop this push from killing his backline. They do have to worry about the bomb. They're going to shield that off. Unfortunately, Dragon Blade X does get that shatter on George Mason. Now they are down members in this fight. They're probably going to have to go back here. They're trying to get a little bit more spam damage. They don't have to don't have to stop entirely, but they have to regroup a little bit before going to the next fight.
The key thing for George Mason there is that they only lost a few members and they burned multiple ultimates from Shenandoah. So no shatter and no bomb here. George Mason don't have their own ultimates. They're coming up close on them now. The rally is going to come up, and George Mason might look to just pop ultimates as they come. Rally in the window being both popped. No deaths yet. All kill feed is just the D-Mech. Zaphat going to find a shield charge on the Baby Diva. She's going to go down 2-0, finding a key pick onto King Kong Poppy. There's not going to be any backline threat from here from Shenandoah as they send the Dragon in, and that finds Dragon Blade X. So it's just a couple more members going to scout out the Hanzo here. Got to take out his opposing player, and that's happening while they are pushing the objective. Great job from George Mason, finding an initial pick there, and then cleaning out the extremities and staying on the point at the same exact time.
Yeah, it looks like GMU kind of surprised Shenandoah a little bit with this composition. They were running it so well in the first points. I actually got a little bit scared on the third point. It becomes a lot more difficult to play the angles. You know, there's this part on the left here that we call horseshoe. Sometimes Sigma can go in there, Hanzo can go up on the high ground, but it doesn't offer you as much as second point here where there's multiple streets on the side that you can really play these angles. But GMU still found a way. Again, those ultimates are very powerful against Brawl. Things like Bongo damage boosting your entire team, and the flux that Wright is able to just make magic with. Just works so well for George Mason.
Yeah, Shenandoah using a little bit of magic themselves there. That the Doomfist pivot, I was really interested in that. You know me, I'm just like a bit of a stickler. I love when the unique heroes sort of come out, some things you weren't expecting on the fly. That's one of the beauties of Overwatch that you don't really get in other games, is being able to swap your hero for whatever situation as it's going. Yeah, you lose your ultimate in some cases, but as you see there, King Kong Poppy pulls that one out and certainly gets value with it. Really good play there, and as I say that, I'm going to look for maybe a Reaper here as well. You know me, I'm always getting baited. There it is again. Always getting baited in the spawn. Maybe
doing it.
Yeah, maybe he knows. They know how casters are and how they always want to sort of call things before they happen. Gonna switch. Yeah, right. Switching back on over to that Mei though as we come out here. George Mason and Shenandoah, excuse me, both running the same composition as they were on the previous sides. Taking a bit of a different route here though for Shenandoah. They're not going to come to the initial statue. They're going to go up on the high ground and play this choke around. Maybe looking to bait out some cooldowns from George Mason as they try to scout. Maybe playing for their own cooldowns as well as we sort of hit a lull here as they might be discussing what sort of angles they can take onto this objective. Or maybe just playing the silent game. They're going to jump over.
Yeah, the Arista can be a bait on the point Shenandoah not falling for it. So Matthew's trying to get a little bit of value here. The Maywall's trying to slow up this rotation. GMU has to really watch out the way Shenandoah is flipping this map. If they do it fast enough, then GMU could be caught in a very disadvantaged fight. Right now, they're still holding this high ground, waiting for some cooldowns to get ready to go for their next rotation. But right now, GMU is playing this pretty well, staying away from Shenandoah. The Maywalls have been stunting the rotations pretty well. Again, now, mid-rotation, Shenandoah might be dropping onto the point. The pool is available. 2-0 does have the angle, but a Binks goes down first. And now, Matthew, without gold, is going to go down as well. Shenandoah found the way to break in their defense to pull the trigger and take out George Mason on the point.
Yeah, definitely a great job there. And sometimes when your opponent gets a good time or pushes all the way, you can feel a little bit anxious regarding what you need to accomplish on your own offense. But Shenandoah is doing a great job there, just sort of feeling out George Mason's initial hold, finding the angle that they can go from, and taking that once they do find it. So not feeling as much pressure as you might think. This is still a very winnable map for them as they do cap that initial objective and are looking to push the payload here a bit further through the street segment of the map.
Yeah, now George Mason has that opportunity to play some more angles, but it is is honestly
right.
a bit harder to do on the defense. You have to watch out for how offense can go really fast and flip you, like we've seen on the first point right now. So GMU is going to take the opportunity to just push really fast into Shenandoah's core. Unfortunately, they may lose 2-0 in the process, but if they hold on to the point, then or not, Shenandoah is going to commit that window as well. GMU in a pretty bad spot. They also near that window, but they aren't committing any other ultimates. Dragon Blade X with the shatter from the bookstore. You can't read about that play there. That's all from him.
Yeah, it's going to clean things up pretty quickly. If there ever was an angle for GMason to get back into that fight, that's going to shut the door on that one in the shop. So, a couple ultimates committed there from Shenandoah. Maybe GMason, after losing 2-0 there early, decides, hey, we're going to stall this as long as we can. We're going to hold our ultimates for the next. And they got a couple of key ones coming up here. Most of them, aside from the support line, Zapad might be closing in on that soon, are going to have ultimates here. So GMason definitely going to look to stall point here. Dragon coming out from the side as the bongos go down as well. Multiple ultimates popped. Matthew going to use that bongo power to find Fena in the back line. And right in your face going to answer on the Voidex as well. There's just more trades coming in from GMason as they find multiple other targets here. And multiple ultimates committed. All 4 of the ones that they had available, other than the rally, which came up somewhere towards the mid side of that fight. So GMason, they use what tools they have, use the ultimates that are available, but they successfully repel the offense. So you're not going to be too upset about that. It's good. But Shenandoah, they're going to be back here pretty quick. They had some clean deaths there, if that's ever a thing. They all died together, so the regroup is going to be pretty quick, and they're finding their way again. Voidex, do a little hop step, jump across. Sorry, from there. They're going to come back in quick, and the Maywall, the Binks is on top of it. I thought for a second that they were going to try and wrap all the way around, but Binks is obviously more into it than I am, reading what their plays may be here. And that is a bit of a trick play that's successfully read and sent packing from GMason.
Yeah, GMU so far able to hold off on these defenses. Very interesting play, and the fight before this where they actually used the Blizzard and the Immortality field to kind of like turn that fight that Shenandoah had into what felt like more of like a dive more than a brawl, because they only had so much time to get the damage out, and then suddenly they're frozen. So GMU able to sustain it. Wow, Kuo getting a massive pick on Enders there before they're able to push in. That's going to eat a lot of time off of Shenandoah's clock there. Of course, Enders had the beat available. Now they have to wait for him to come back. They also have the window. It looks like Shenandoah is going to have a bit of an ult advantage coming into this fight. They want to play fast, of course. I've said that a million times. It is the nature of their composition. GMU is going to have to find a way to slow them down. It looks like they're coming up on finally a few more ults for themselves. Dragons maybe thrown here into the pool, but it is eaten by Sacred End. Now, GMU have to fend off this beat. Binks does get the Blizzard in time, but will it be enough? They're trying to clear off these members. They are getting most of them, but it could be Shenandoah's chance to bounce back here now that they have cooldowns coming back up. But Binks gets that freeze on King Kong. Pappy. Now, GMU pushing forward. They are going to hold that point.
Yeah, and GMason, whether they knew it or not, the early picks that they get in that fight come onto both Dragon Blade X and Void X, the 2 members that had their ultimate available. So taking out some key components that could have swung that fight in Shenandoah's favor. The beat does go down. We noted that when Enders got picked the previous fight. But GMason, they're not looking too hot on ultimates here. It's going to be maybe on right to land a multi-member ultimate here. Their posture for it. It is interesting positioning. The Dragon's going to come out to push them off this. Matthew has been called out. Here's the Graviton Flux. It's didn't land 2. Surely they're going to go down there. Oh, the lamp keeps them alive right at the tail end of that, but they're only alive for a moment longer. All of Shenandoah, save for the Lucio now, is just a formality as he heads on through the subway tunnel. Right in your face, going to find him at the end of that. There's 10 seconds remaining, and GMason is posturing further up in this streets phase. Oh, and an important pick onto the Void X.
They don't have the pool available for that one, so he will get a test on the cart.
Yeah.
But GMU still has all these angles on everyone else walking to the point, and they do clean off that Hammond. GMU moving 2-1 up in the series.
Yeah, and that was a bit close for me. Maybe I overestimated how much health the Hammond have in the stalling capacity there. Sure, he gets on the point and stalls for a bit second longer, but if the rest of your team can't make it, yeah, this is something to note. Brigitte play of the game. Doesn't happen too often. Let's see how much work Zapad did here. Just swinging onto multiple members, healing the team. keeping the armor up.
Look at that.
And this is some interactive, little bit of flick of the flail right there onto Enders.
Look at the flick of the flail.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Great play there.
Yeah, I'm definitely very impressed with GameMason's composition, how well they were able to play the macro meta of that match. Again, I've said it a few times, the way they are able to play the angles to make the fights go a little bit slower, but still have enough resources to brawl with the Brig and their DPS, the Hanzo, just a lot of damage output available. The Mei, of course, is a great brawl pick, and they're able to make the fights go slower or faster. That's the kind of the magic of the Mei. In order, where are you going to place this wall, and how is it going to be beneficial to your team?
Yeah, GameMason playing the composition that they had very well there, but Shenandoah, they always kept me a bit interested. They always had these interesting flank routes that they were taking and sort of faking out where they were going to go. It never felt like GameMason was entirely in control. There were definitely moments where I felt like Shenandoah definitely had a window into that one. So maybe a map that didn't look as close as it may have actually been. Just a couple of key fights and key picks. We saw 2-0 coming up big, landing a couple of key arrows onto targets. So definitely still well played from them. They're in it for sure, and I'm just looking forward to this next map as we move forward. This is their time to shine. As you mentioned, it's 2-1, so they're on the back foot now. Oh, it is best of 5. Yes. Yeah, so they're on the back foot. They're going to be looking to take the next map. It is going to be their pick. I think, if I saw correctly, we're going back to Escort in the next match here. So it's just as to which map they're going to decide to pick.
Yeah, and you may be curious, if you are seasoned Overwatch players, why haven't they moved to a 2CP? That's actually because the Blizzard sanctioned league for collegiate doesn't include a 2CP map in its rotation, so GameMason is going to mirror that rule set and go only Koth, hybrids, and escorts, so that's why we're moving back to the escort most likely.
Yeah, and if in the same breath, that's like a sigh of relief, that's like rejoice, at least from my perspective, the 2CP, let's just say I can understand why they leave it out. It's a bit of a strange map to play sometimes. Definitely has its own strategic variety to it. But
yeah, it does. I remember some of the last games I played in the GOATS meta, actually we brought out a triple DPS on Volskaya 2CP. So you're able to kind of do, as you saw GameMason, rotate away from the brawl composition while keeping up the spam damage. And if say no updates came to Overwatch during the GOATs, you would actually see different compositions still come out. It took a very long time to figure out the meta. I would say that was kind of one of the pinnacle points of when Overwatch really found that embracing the macro play really brought just a whole new world to Overwatch. Not that it wasn't there before, but that we saw a lot of new light. And as you can see, the meta is still developing now, even after very small balance changes. The Orisa Sigma in the brawl composition wasn't something that you'd run all the time, and especially definitely not into Rhine in Diva all the time. But now you're able to run it. Not that Shenandoah doesn't have an answer to this. You can do it. It is just quite difficult. The way they are rotating around the map is very good. And now that they have the map pick to just shut that option off from GMU and able to play that, they're going to go for it. It looks like we may be moving into Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah, and interesting to note here, if the information I have is correct, is that it looks like we're going to be swapping. Binks from the side of GameMason is going to be coming in. Yuck is going to be coming in for a Binks. So a bit of a specialist for this map here that they're looking to bring in. Maybe a interesting composition or some other changes could be on the horizon for GameMason.
Yep. All right. So a Binks packing up now. This is actually a very nice moment for me because Yuck actually played on the team I last played on at GameMason, and he was our substitute. He was for that Volskaya pick actually to play, I believe, Sombra in that composition. Right, and we didn't play Volskaya against GMU. James Madison was the team we played over here, and so Yuck didn't get to play at that time. I think his gamer tag was Jackson at the time, so it's good to see him finally getting to play on the stage. So he walks on now, our DPS specialist.
Using a first name as a gamer tag?
Yeah, who would do that?
Yeah, I could get behind it.
There's a handful of those. I
Yeah,
guess.
I honestly, it's sort
Actually.
of the way it sort of goes is if you're gaming for a long time and you have like a username that you created, maybe you were in like middle school or a kid, you sort of realize that it's maybe not something that you don't want to
Keep
go
around.
forward being whatever it may be, and then you sort of fall back. At least I know my thought process was like, what's something that I would never really like feel like changing, and I was like, well, I have this name that I've been given,
No,
so
I have a
maybe I'll just try for a variation
Yeah,
on
kind of
that.
like it.
Yeah.
Huh. Very true. Well, it'll be also Shenandoah's side pick after this map pick. I think we are, of course, as I said, moving into Gibraltar. We have a few, looks like keyboards, mice switch out, of course.
Yeah, just peripherals setting up.
Peripherals getting set up.
A gamer's setup is, very important to them. So you got to make sure that that keyboard is angled correctly. You got
It's very
whatever
true.
space
It's
you
like,
need.
your pregame
Yes, your pregame ritual. Absolutely. That's
I
what
mean,
it
it
is.
also helps the in-game, but honestly, like, it helps your mental going into it. You're like, okay, everything is where it needs to be. You can relax
Yeah.
and really lose yourself in the game. I know definitely playing at LAN, of course, we've mentioned a few times earlier, is a whole different experience, but in some ways it's all the same because once you get absorbed in just the complexity that is 6v6 Overwatch, you just think nothing else but your ult tracking, your target priority, your positioning, all these macro elements, and of course just your micro play that you have to be on top of. That really becomes what you're engrossed in.
Yeah, a lot of people, myself included sometimes, hype it up, but it really can come down to just being that initial like bump in the road. You sort of are in an unfamiliar environment, but it definitely helps because though you're not playing at home at your own setup, you do still have the teammates that are next to you, and that's not something that you always have. Usually they're just over the voice chat, but when you got guys next to you, guys and gals next to you, that you can even see what they're doing, and you might have a bit more awareness in the game than you might normally.
Absolutely.
As long as it's for your teammates, you can do a little bit of screen peeking and get away with it.
Yeah,
So.
that is definitely allowed, actually. Yeah, and that and the hype factor, honestly, just having them get excited next to you and just playing off of that just helps the mental a lot. Sometimes you lose that, especially, of course, we've just been through a pandemic, not being able to see your teammates at all, even like go for lunches with them.
Yeah.
It definitely affects a lot of players. So these are the best of a lot that we're able to keep the iron mental and still play a game that gets a little few updates and not going to see your teammates, but that's why they're so dang good at this game right now.
Yeah, right. Definitely, I can't overstate enough how impressed I am just seeing these players sort of taking the game to heights of coordination and complexity and strategy that when I played it and thought I was pretty good at it, these are things I would have never imagined. So
yeah,
just definitely props to them.
Just like season to season, what you learn, even playing the game, you might like stop for a month and just like what the new coaches are bringing out, just how the game is getting honed. Even like now, like going back and VOD reviewing like the last OWL games, you'll see like list out like a whole thing of like mistakes players are making, how we could do X, Y, Z better. There's just still so much to learn about this game. That's why I love Overwatch. And it's great to see these players now. To give you a little bit more perspective, again, about the talent of these teams is collegiate Overwatch, I want to say, had 500 teams playing the Blizzard Sanctioned League. Both GMU and Shenandoah are probably ranked on power rankings around 16, I want to say, because we saw Shenandoah, or sorry, it was Bryan and Stratton, another Virginia team. These are the big three: Shenandoah, GMU, and Bryan and Stratton. Wait, yes, okay. There's another Bryan and Stratton, not in Virginia. I always mix myself up. Anyway, these teams played each other in the NACE Southeast Division, or at least GMU and Shenandoah did, and then Bryan and Stratton was in another one. GMU beat Shenandoah. That was in fall to move on to additional playoffs. Shenandoah, of course, you got to send 2 teams from each division, so Southeast also sent Shenandoah. Long story short, they both played Bryan and Stratton. Both games were close. I want to say both were 2-3. GMU unfortunately got reverse swept, but Brian Stratton went to beat Waldorf University, and Waldorf is a very respected school. No, not only did they beat Waldorf, they also beat Northeastern. So these are teams that are way up there in the rankings, top 16, maybe even top 8 for Northeastern. I haven't checked the PR recently as of spring, but these are definitely very powerful teams. And up and above that, you have teams that are stacked with contenders players. You got Harrisburg, ISU, Maryville, Northwood, even St. Thomas now. These teams that are just offering a scholarship for contenders players just to get their esports program bolstered. And these teams are able to compete with those, take off maps of these contenders teams. So these definitely no small feat that these teams are playing here today and able to play at such a high level.
Sorry, just peeking over at the players, a little bit of camaraderie going, a couple fist bumps between what looks to be the two main tanks. So sportsmanship all around. We're heading into Gibraltar shortly here. And I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I'm going to be looking forward to sniping.
You want the snipers to
I always want snipers.
You're not satisfied with Hanzo?
No, man. Those projectiles. I am seeing some great projectile play.
Arriving at watch point.
I want to see a Widowmaker. It's not going to happen. I'm setting myself up right now. It's not going to happen.
Manifest it.
But I'm trying. Yes, I am trying to manifest it. Yeah, it's just maybe I'm pretending that Overwatch is a game that it isn't, but I love to see high-level hit scan play. Maybe just a bit of a self-insert for me, as a role player.
Pleaser. You gotta
yeah,
play
absolutely. I like to see when the people aim good.
Well, we're definitely seeing some players play good macro-wise, and we've definitely seen some good micro play as well.
And that's something I actually forget to mention, showing how much of an old head I am. I always forget about Ashe.
Yeah.
2-0 hovering the Ashe right now. That suits my desire 100%. That's just as good as a Widowmaker. So hopefully he doesn't betray me and sticks around on this. Interesting to see Yuck on the Torbjorn as well.
Yeah, these are characters that are pretty runnable in the meta right now. In fact, King Kong Pappy also listed that they may pull out the Torbjorn. It's a favorite of them as well.
Maybe
Not seeing it on the offense, but
yeah, just holding the Symmetra right now on defense. Oh, on the offense, excuse me. Just to get a teleport out of the spawn maybe early, so they can all get onto this high ground. Perhaps Dragonblade X is going to be the first one over. He's going to jump on up, but he's alone right now, getting pulled around and taking a lot of damage. But as long as he doesn't go down, that's just going to be some ultimate charge for Fena and Enders here in the backline. Mercy is going very low here, but does survive. Go taking a couple pot shots. GAMEmason just sitting up on this high ground. Here comes Dragonblade X. Gonna jump on in, but manages to get away with the help. Let's save, yeah. Good returning.
What Shenandoah is trying to do here is build up the nano. Nanoing your Winston is a very effective way to take a lot of space and potentially threaten kill. GMU, as you can see, has rotated back to what's called the box. That high ground is staying up there in the top right. Tracer moving in as well. Now that the turret is not up or has an angle on Tracy, so they're in the back line now. Dragonblade X trying to pressure this high ground that they want to take control of. If they can get Void X up there, that can prove devastating for GAMEmason. As you see Zappat rotating up to the high ground. King Kong Pappy trying to respect that. Does have the turret that is able to see them. Zappat, yeah, so aware. Kudos to him. Shenandoah does have that nano available. Let's see if they pull the trigger sometime soon. All this healing that is going into Dragonblade X is no longer charging an ultimate, and in fact, it's going to put GAMEmason a little bit ahead in the ultimate advantage. Amform going to throw out the first ultimate of the fight. Nano does come out on that Winston. Enders also trying to bolster that healing and damage by falking right here, but Zappat is the only one to go down. Right now, GAMEmason going to commit the bongo as well. The Orisa ultimate. Dragonblade, no stranger to getting kills on that Primal does get Amform right in your face, trying to equalize the backline after losing Amform, but is not able to get any picks until he does. And it does go down, but it's still Shenandoah's fight to win. GMU coming back with their spawn advantage, but right, not able to re-next. GMU may opt to not contest this point. We'll see. They actually do have a lot of time. They probably will.
Fortunately, they did sort of halt the card for the duration of that fight that was happening in the dark room there. Matthew going to be going in first here with the Hammond. Going to drop down. gets the shield going. 2-0 looking for a pick onto the Mercy on Enders. Almost gets low, but a visor from Voidex, especially with that damage boost in tow, is going to be big deeps onto George Mason's DPS line. Matthew, right in your face, finding some key picks there onto both the main support and the DPS. So they're not done yet contesting this. Zapat could find a nice little flail smack onto King Kong Poppy. Tracer's going to go down here, so no DPS, excuse me, no damage on the side of Shenandoah, but that's just characters that are specific to doing damage. Still have a couple tanks here. They're going to reset though. Those are key members of your team. 4v6 is ill-advised.
GMU able to hold on to that point right now, and they're coming up on the support ultimate. It's Shenandoah that wants to pull the trigger first, though. The nano very devastating to the backline. Yuck is actually able to kill that through the window damage. You have to watch out for that. Unfortunately for Dragon Blade X, he does go down. So this is going to hold Shenandoah's push. They only have 40 seconds left on the clock. They're coming up to that primal race George Mason has to watch out for in this next fight. They're kind of out of ultimates, except for potentially Torbjorn may get his. They might get some mines, which is both zoning ultimates, but with two tanks that can kind of fly over this, they can kind of contest the cart and still get pressure on the back line regardless. So we'll see how this plays out for them. Shenandoah committing a lot of ultimates in this fight, both tank ultimates out, but Matthew does get Void X with his mines. GMU still holding on to this point. They're controlling the space. Now Matthew trying to get on the back line, does pick up Void X after getting Reds. 2-0 taking out the main tank. GMU trying to close out this fight here, and now they have Right's bomb as well for insurance. Yuck, no way, gets the hammer kill. No, avert your eyes. GMU getting a little spicy in the kill feed.
Yeah, we saw off the initial hold, Yuck kind of went for that hammer kill, and I just sort of like nodded my head a little bit. I said, oh, you're getting a little bit cheeky there. But there's some perseverance there. Yuck being brought onto the stage, not giving up just yet, and getting that hammer kill. So satisfying.
GMU really wants to do well on this offense, or else they're going to feel a little bad about their play here. It was a great hold. Again, this is Shenandoah's kind of do-or-die map. GMU is up 2-1 in the series. If GMU wins this push now, then they win GameMason.
Yeah. Still of note, though, is it is Gibraltar. There's been many a match that have been decided without anyone ever touching the first point. This is a bit of a high-profile choke under that initial bridge. So, George Mason, you got to be feeling confident knowing that the goal isn't too far from where you are right now, but it's still no cakewalk. You do have to still put in the work and get through, and we see that they might have a strategy tailored just for this. Once again, showing why they've brought Yuck on, hovering the Bastion right now. You mentioned to me before, behind the stage, we might see this. This is something that we've seen from them before, but yeah,
let's
we see if they pull it out.
Did their due diligence and checked out some VODs beforehand to prepare and answer this, as Virginia Tech could not, as it took 3 points on Junkertown. Of course, this is a bit of a different map. It's a bit harder to run, so Shenandoah has an advantage in that sense. They see it now. They have the angle. Yuck, taking a lot of damage. Actually has to get off the cart right now. So Shenandoah able to get the damage in, trying to take out Amform. He's the target, but they're able to stay up, and Dragon Blade gets low. Tanks both low for Shenandoah. GMU is threatening that proximity to capturing the objective. They really have to watch out now.
Yeah, Shenandoah, that's a good sleep from Vena. Important to land that onto the Bastion, because without that, they can't contest the point. Looks like they're going to try to now, but Yuck, he's free-firing the D. The defense matrix isn't going to last forever. The D.Va's going to get D-mech. That's both tanks down. Matthew also going to find Voidex, and it's like looking like a clean sweep for George Mason. Just Ana in the server room, and a Tracer that's looking to stall, but can they get on in time? Ana goes down. It's just King Kong Poppy to keep the stall for George Mason. And Dragon Blade X is back, but everybody's falling. That's going to be it.
GMU with the Bastion takes the win on GameMason 3-1 series. What a series it was. They earned that. Congratulations. Right. He's going to get that play of the game as well. Shenandoah, unfortunately, very well played.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the brawl, but it's not able to find the crack in George Mason's interesting compositions. that they brought out tonight.
Yeah, and just like Yuck being pulled on the stage to get it over the line, both those two characters, at least I know you don't always expect a Torbjorn and a Bastion. Sometimes they can be labeled a bit cheese. You know, they might not have the impact that you hope for them, but they definitely pulled it through, and just a great job overall. What a great series from both teams, absolutely.
I was very excited to see that. I know Natter has been working very closely with GMason to really prepare for this match. GMason highly respects Shenandoah as an opponent, and they showed that tonight by really pulling out what they've prepared for this match tonight, and so they showed it with that 3-1 victory against Shenandoah. So absolutely well played from all the players. I had so much fun watching that match. How about you?
Me too. No, literally at a loss for words. There was a little bit of everything. I know, like you say, from the strategic standpoint, both teams showing their depth in both the map pool and the talent pool and the strategy, pulling out these different compositions. And there's a little bit something for everyone. I got to see my guy 2-0 click head good on the Ash on that last map. Yeah. So that was great for me. I get a little bit of joy out of the simpler things in life, maybe. Yeah. So that was awesome.
I think everyone can come away from this a little bit satisfied at the very least. If I was Shenandoah, I'd be pretty satisfied with my play. They pulled out a lot of great stuff tonight. But it looks like we're going to wrap it up here. Congratulations again to GMason. Of course, Shenandoah does get a little piece of the prize pool as well for that second place. So well done for them. And thank you all for coming out here for GameMason. There's going to be some more on-stage events coming up next. I forget exactly what the next thing is. I think Smash is involved later.
Yes, absolutely.
6:30 will be the time to come back. I can tell you that at the very least. But again, thank you so much for watching on stream, coming out, whatever it was. We appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very much. All right, so signing off here, I am Hamster Quest, joined by Griff.
That's me.
That is you.
Always a pleasure to have you all.
We will see you guys out in the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Stick around. GameMason's not done just yet. That'll do it for us, though.
All right. Let us move on.
Sounds good.